Who are we? 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 Yeah! Yeah! All right. Okay. So we are going to start with greetings from the Schiller Institute. So Daniel Burke, please come up here. We love Daniel. Come on up. That is so kind. No, thank you. We need to exonerate LaRouche. Okay, I guess I'm just going to let it be. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much to CPI for organizing this excellent event. I absolutely, I'm thrilled to hear many of the speeches tonight. Enjoyed it very much. And I think it is true. There's a very opportune moment, very important moment to have a conversation like this and to bring people together to act in solidarity, to lead the United States out of its lunacy and toward a doctrine of peace and collaboration with the BRICS countries and no nuclear war. That would be a good thing. So, yes, I am Daniel Burke. I work with the Schiller Institute, as I have for about a decade. And I'd like to begin by, I won't take too long, but I would like to begin by reading to you an urgent statement from Helga Zepp-LaRouche. It's a little less than a page. It's titled, Call for an Emergency International Conference to Reorganize the Bankrupt Financial System. The tremors in the financial system felt around the world, triggered by the run on Silicon Valley Bank in the United States, its subsequent closure and being put in receivership, are the clarion call for all governments in the world to act quickly to prevent a repeat of the 2008 crisis on a larger scale. Larger and more deadly because all the so-called tools of the central bank have been exhausted. Given the extreme over-indebtedness of the financial system, coupled with a derivatives exposure of perhaps $2 quadrillion, the everything bubble is threatened with the fate of what Wall Street guru Bill Gross compared to a supernova, a bright, shining star that suddenly burns out. Between the Scylla of financial tightening triggering growing margin calls and a run on the banks, as occurred before the trouble of SVB, and the Charybdis of reverting to quantitative easing, letting hyperinflation eat up the debt, there is no solution within the system. In either case, be it a sudden collapse of the entire system or hyperinflationary devaluation destroying people's life's work, the potential damage to billions of people and the likely death of millions is unacceptable. The failure to address the root causes of the systemic crisis of the financial system in 2008 and the 15 years since of reckless creation of liquidity by quantitative easing, zero and even negative interest rates at the disadvantage of the physical capacities of the economy, in combination with geopolitically motivated economic madness, such as sanctions hitting the Western economies in a gigantic blowback, is resulting in a blowout of the system. Neither Shaktian austerity nor bailouts or bail-ins will remedy the situation. Only an end to the casino economy and a return to sound investments in the real physical economy aimed at increasing the productivity of the economy through capital-intensive and energy flux-dense economic production will do. If FDR were alive, he would declare a bank holiday, implement a Glass-Steagall banking separation, a New Deal, and offer American participation in a new Bretton Woods system according to his original intention, to supply massive credit to increase the living standard of the people of the global South. Unfortunately, it can't be expected that the current US Congress has the stature or wisdom to do likewise. While the efforts of the Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the BRICS Plus to create a new commodity-based currency and a new financial system may not have progressed sufficiently, given all kinds of restrictions and remnants of previous approaches, the drama of events could force the realization of existing intentions to be sped up. Since the very real possibility of an uncontrolled collapse of the financial system could accentuate the danger of the present proxy war between NATO and Russia, with China in the background, to escalate by accident or miscalculation, urgent action is required. There must be an immediate emergency conference whereby governments signal to the world that they will act together with goodwill to move to a new global security and development architecture, taking into account the interest of every nation on the planet. The first expression of such a new architecture should be the implementation of the 4 laws proposed by Lyndon LaRouche: a global Glass-Steagall system, a system of national banks, a new credit system, and international cooperation in the next generation of scientific and technological investments, such as thermonuclear fusion and space science. This emergency conference must take place either as a conference of the UN General Assembly or the G20. If these institutions are unable to respond, then other sponsors must be found, such as the BRICS Plus, the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or a combination of representative institutions. When the well-being and possibly existence of the human species is at stake, all ideological obstacles must be overcome. So I invite you to visit the Schiller Institute website and to add your name in support. And you will also find that there is an international conference being organized for April 15th, which is online, in which this will be discussed with an international, several international panels of international speakers. So that's a pretty big deal and a bit daunting. However, I want to, I'll just extend it a little bit further from this standpoint. We know that there is a new capability, political capability in the United States. And I pointed out a year ago that I thought that the CPI conference in March was a certain kind of watershed moment to demonstrate that potential. That capability was evident at the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which was extremely effectively organized by the People's Party in collaboration with the Libertarian Party and many sponsors. Meanwhile, did you watch the New York Times website on the day of the Xi-Putin meeting, or any major news, Western news, right? They had to cover it wall to wall, devote the first 3 lead articles to it, and there's nothing they can do about it. Or people probably have seen that Bloomberg News headline that's so hilarious. U.S. fears China-led peace deal in Ukraine. How terrifying would that be if there were peace? Yeah. So, yeah, right. John Bolton is wetting his bed, I'm sure. Anyway, I would just indicate that my view is that there's this potential, which we have to look at it as much as possible from the top down. Try not to think about it in terms of merely what are the existing potentials. That, I think, is the fundamental flaw. Rather, think about what potential can be created and will be created. I mean, I'm not, and I'm sure you're not cheering on the, like, damn it, the riots and the fire and all the things going on in France as such. But rather what you see is the natural development of people who are dealing with a completely dysfunctional system that will not respond to them, and their right to the pursuit of happiness, to a life worth living. And so this process will continue to unfold. Both the fact that the progress of China and of the BRICS countries cannot be denied in any way. You really cannot. They have to say peace is bad, right? They have to attack the things that are factually the case, which are an earthquake. The media, the whole apparatus of empire. China is collapsing tomorrow. I have it on good authority from Sam here, but right. So there's nothing like, that's the point, right? There's the watery, the watery propaganda, the pathetic efforts are just that, increasingly obvious that that's the case. And I think that we have to see that while we recognize that we have, 1.4 billion people in China who are with us, right? We have, people have probably been following the words of Sergei Lavrov, who has now come to start talking about, he doesn't say global south. He says the global majority, which is obvious, right? I mean, if you look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and you consider their physical economic capability, their population, and you have to admit that there's one part of the world that is best situated to weather a major financial crash, and that's China. Everyone knows that. Who could avoid admitting that? So there's this capability there, and you can go through the numbers. Like between Russia, China, and India, you've got about 66% of the world's steel production, somewhere in the similar neighborhood in terms of the world's coal production. Just enormous capability. Okay, so what is this? Well, I would like to emphasize that this is the moment in which the common aims of mankind can come forward. That is what we're seeing with the China-Saudi-Iran deal, and that's what we're seeing with the Russia-brokered Saudi-Syria deal, is that the principle of national sovereignty, of the right to sovereign economic development, is coming up. It's advancing in the world. So this is also exactly what Lyndon LaRouche forecast when he specifically proposed 30 years ago the New Silk Road, along with Helge LaRouche, who, of course, Helge Zepp LaRouche, founder of the Schiller Institute and leader of the International LaRouche movement. Namely, and you can see many speeches online, I highly recommend watching them, LaRouche said over and over again, the development of Eurasia will be the pivot for the development of the world, specifically Africa. He always referred to the development of Africa being possible because of the development of the New Silk Road, the Eurasia-wide development corridors, which are now the basis for Chinese capability in the world, for example, and Russian. So we're living in a moment in which we have to make a subjective choice, I would say, because the objective conditions can't really be better, in the sense that the system is failing. There's no doubt about that. And in the meanwhile, there is an alternative. So if we sort of say to ourselves, I guess it's coming, you'll probably be waiting for Godot. And if instead you say, how can we mobilize, educate, develop everyone that we can, build big events, rich events in which we get to develop and educate our peers, and especially youth and students, Going to farmers. We were proud to have a Schiller Institute representative go speak at one of the major events of the Dutch farmers recently. Go to the scientists, go to the artists, go to the trade unionists, go to everyone, because there's a common question at confronting us on economic collapse, on World War III, and on the new paradigm. So, yeah, think big. We need 1 billion new jobs. We don't need some crumbs. We need a new system. You know, we need like, really, you need 1 billion jobs. I'm not joking, right? There's 1 billion people who are underemployed. We need that. Yeah. So finally, I just want to indicate that please join us. Please work with us. I love working with you. Please work with us. The situation is that we need more people doing interventions. Jose Vega has been working with the People's Party in training some individuals how to get in there and keep things at the top. You know, consider the strategic situation that will resonate with everyone, not with one group or another. There are many, many important causes, but we have to deal with the one that unifies the higher one at this point. Get into the interventions. More conferences of all types. Adopt the LaRouche plan. That's my invitation to each of you in your organizations and so forth. Now the time has come, I think, to say these are policies that we like because they're good policies. And, you know, the fact that some people are going to whine at me because it has the L word attached to it is not going to hold me back. Visit LaRoucheLibrary.org, which we recently set up, which has a bunch of historical content of LaRouche, going back, of course, you know, he was active going back into the 60s. So we have all types of beautiful pictures and video and many, many writings that you can search easily there. And yeah, and I invite CPI to, as an educational, with its mission of education, to take in LaRouche's books and study them and collaborate with us to do so and include them in your education, because I have come to the conclusion that his ideas are crucial for the next period. So thank you so much for listening, and congratulations on the conference.
Thanks so much, Daniel. And listen, LaRouche's ideas are amazing ideas. So, you know, I think something to consider, certainly. You know, if you draw a comparison between the CPI plan and LaRouche's plan, you know, there's a lot of similarity there. Something we should think about. So thanks so much, Daniel, for that inspiring speech. You know, LaRouche was really visionary. You know, the fact that he foresaw everything we're seeing now, I mean, it's really amazing.